Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Spirit. This will be Part 8, Chapter 8, entitled Battle. The night after his first day of school, Izuku tells his parents everything about the cacophony of ghosts, Oboro possessing him at lunch, and the strange apparitions around All Might. Hizashi and Aizawa just stared at him for a moment across the dinner table, concerned looks on their faces. Geez, kid. Aizawa sighs, rubbing his forehead. I could tell you were off today, but I didn't realize it was that bad. Do you think you'll be able to focus in class, or will we need to do something about the spirits haunting your classmates? It's a testament that his parents are used to oddities with his quirk, because Aizawa doesn't even flinch when he says the last sentence. The only expression on his face, concern for his son. I think it'll be okay, Izuku says honestly, pushing around some food on his plate with his chopsticks. I think the ghosts, respect me now. Taro is going to be the one that's the most difficult. That's Kirishima's dog. I don't think he was well trained, so he might jump up on me and stuff. Oboro thinks he can probably handle anyone else that's being too loud. All right, Izashi says calmly, folding his hands on the table. Let's talk about Oboro. Is he here? Izuku shakes his head. No, he disappeared on the way home from school. That might be a good thing, Izashi continues. Izuku, we love Oboro. He is our best friend. But you know how we worry about the possession aspect of your quirk. I really don't like that he took over your body without asking. That's crossing a line. He was trying to help, Izuku says weakly. I don't think he meant any harm, Dad. Aizawa sighs. We know that, kid. Oboro wouldn't hurt a fly. He's genuinely good in ways I'm not. He only wants to help people, but he's been a ghost now for almost longer than he's been alive. And I just worry, that's all. I don't want you to get hurt, Izu. I know, Izuku says softly. I'll talk to him, make sure he asks my permission next time. He always does. This was the first time he's ever done it without asking me. As long as he doesn't make a habit of it, Aizawa replies. And that leaves All Might, and whatever those ghosts were. Izuku shudders, looking down at his food. The specters around the #1 hero were creepy, and Izuku can't deny how unsettled they make him feel. He thinks out of everything today. That might be the one thing he can't handle on his own. I don't know what to do, Izuku says honestly. The spirit said All Might doesn't even know that they're there, and if I tried to help them move on, I would die. What? Hizashi asked, paling. They said that to you? Threatened you? Izuku nods, stomach clenching. I think so. They're not normal spirits. I've never seen a group of ghosts attached to someone like that. It's like they're manifesting out of him or something. I can't explain it, but it really freaked me out. We need to talk to All Might, Aizawa says, looking at Hizashi. Izuku, I know you said that he doesn't know, but if he has any idea of what it might be, we have to figure it out. Izuku winces. I don't think it'll work, Dad. Most people are really defensive when you bring up the spirits around them, and it only upsets the ghosts more. In this case, that might mean they try to attack me. I've never dealt with anything like that, never been in an actual confrontation with a ghost. I'm not ready to handle a group of 7 of them attached to the strongest person in the world. Hizashi leans over, gripping Izuku's arm gently, looking at him with love and concern. We hear you, honey. We won't talk to him yet, but can we please call your quirk counselor? Maybe someone in the paranormal quirk world will have some idea of what this might be. We won't mention All Might, of course, just saying that you saw them around someone at school. That's fine, Izuku agrees, yawning as exhaustion hits him. Is every day at UA this intense? Pretty much, Aizawa deadpans, and Izuku groans. The next day at school, Tenny Ida, the dark-haired boy with glasses and engines in his legs, and Momo Yayorozu, a girl whose quirk is creating anything she knows the molecular structure of, are voted class representatives. It's a much calmer morning overall, despite the horde of reporters stationed outside UA. Once word broke out that All Might was teaching there, they had surrounded the school. Oboro, fortunately, noticed it early on, and Izuku entered the school through the back entrance with Hitoshi and Akatsuki, all 3 relieved, to avoid the press. Fucking vultures. Akatsuki curses at lunch as he stares at the reporters outside. Don't they have anything better to do? Probably not, Shoto says, from Izuku's right. They're always hounding heroes for stories, and this is the biggest thing in the news right now. Izuku's getting used to having other people around. After finding out about his quirk, the class seems to be somewhat divided. Most people are polite to him, but don't actively try to hang out with him, and a few are intentionally avoiding him outright. Some are friendly, like Shoto, Ida, Momo, Uraraka, and Tokiyami, but Izuku can sense he's still unsettling most of the class. So stupid, Hitoshi sighs. Maybe I should go brainwash them, get them off campus, or Izuku can show them ghosts and scare them off. Good plan, Shoto agrees, making Izuku grin. Shoto seems to fit in well with him, Katsuki, and Hitoshi, and he's enjoying eating lunch with him and the potential of a new friend. Although, out of everyone in the class, it's Tokiyami that seems to relate to Izuku the most. I don't think the ghost would do that on command, Tokiyami says, eating some of his ramen. Perhaps I could scare them with Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow, Tokiyami's sentient quirk, is one of the most fascinating things Izuku has ever seen. Dark Shadow is definitely alive. His life force is tied to Tokiyami's, but Dark Shadow also seems to sense spirit energy, from the way he prowls around and avoids the ghosts that Izuku can see. Dark Shadow peeks out of Tokiyami just then, nudging against Izuku and curling in his lap like a cat. Izuku smiles fondly at it, looking to Tokiyami for permission before he rubs the top of Dark Shadow's head. Wow, you feel like static, Izuku comments to Dark Shadow. Your energy is a lot like spirit energy. Really? Dark Shadow asks, shaking like a cat before curling around Tokiyami's neck. You feel nice, Izuku, like a ghost yourself. You do seem part spirit, Tokiyami observes, looking at Izuku's floating wispy blue hair. Fascinating. The conversation is cut short when a loud alarm goes off. Ghosts and humans alike begin yelling and screaming, and that combined with the alarm makes Izuku wrench his eyes shut, putting his hands over his ears. He misses students trying to run out of the cafeteria in a panic, misses Uraraka floating Ida to the ceiling with her quirk so he can shout and calm down the students. He feels a cool hand on his neck, sensing Oboro is there behind him, and Izuku looks up, seeing the concerned face of not just him, but the rest of his friends at the table. Izuku, you okay? Hitoshi asks, and Izuku nods, rubbing his forehead. Come on, nerd, Katsuki says, walking over and tugging up Izuku gently by the arm. We're supposed to evacuate. The next bit of time passes in a daze as Izuku's brain tries to process all the spirit and human energy he had just felt. Oboro next to him as a silent guardian. His second day of school ends almost eventful as the first. Dad, are we really going to the USJ today? Izuku asks excitedly as he walks next to Aizawa into UA. It was later in the first week of school, and they had both just said goodbye to Izashi in his classroom before walking to 1A. You know we are, Aizawa says fondly. Are you excited? Izuku stares at his dad for a moment before saying, yeah. Not only did we get to train in a top-of-the-line facility, we get to meet the Rescue Hero 13. She's so cool, Dad. She is, Aizawa agrees, opening the door to the classroom. Why don't you go to the locker rooms and change into your hero costume? We'll be wearing them on the bus ride over. I'll be sending your classmates down as they arrive. Izuku nods, grabbing the case labeled with his seat number, 18, and heads to the locker room to change. Once inside, Izuku pulls out his hero costume, grinning at the design. He pulls it on, feeling very cool as he looks at himself in the mirror. He's in an all-black karate gi made of material that is nearly impossible to rip, shred, or burn. He also has on black shock-absorbing boots, black fingerless gloves, and a white utility belt. The belt has multiple storage compartments for various support items and anything else he may need to carry. Around his forehead are a pair of goggles that match the ones Oboro wears, in case Izuku needs to use his cloud quirk. The finishing touch is a quarterstaff, a weapon that his parents and Oboro had been training him to use, which he can attach to a holster on his waist. He grins at himself, appreciating the floating blue hair and his blue eyes, thinking he looks like a cool mix between Oboro and himself. Nice, kid, Oboro says, stepping through the locker room wall and looking at Izuku with pride. Like a mini-me, I dig it. Sure that costume isn't too tight? Izuku shakes his head. No, I can move just fine. It's good for us, too. You'll be able to possess me really easily if you need. And I have a staff and goggles like you, see? Very cool. Oboro grins, leaning against the lockers with a grin. I love it, honestly. Now come on, head out to the bus. Field trip will start in a bit. Izuku greets his classmates by the bus, everyone gushing over each other's costumes. Hakekore's costume is completely invisible to everyone else, but Izuku can see it's a jumpsuit that probably has been created with her DNA. It's really impressive. And he also notices she has a normal set of gloves and shoes, so she can still be seen and not accidentally hurt or left behind. Wow, Izuku, I love your costume, Uraraka gushes, looking at him happily. You look like a karate action hero. Izuku grins. You look great too. All of you do. Wow, Kachan. Those arm braces are huge. Did they collect your sweat? Hell yeah. Katsuki grins, lifting one of them up. Like giant grenades. Fucking badass, right? Hitoshi smirks from where he's leaning against the bus. He almost looks like a mini Eraserhead, in an all-black outfit with a capture scarf. The only difference is the voice changer he's wearing around the lower half of his mouth, doubling also as a gas mask. They all file onto the bus, and Izuku sits next to Shoto, whose costume is interesting. Izuku was fairly certain Shoto's quirk was half cold, half hot, but his costume is all ice-based. In fact, his entire hot side was encased in fake ice. It honestly looked a little clunky and awkward, but Izuku figures it's not his place to say. After the short bus ride, they pull into the USJ parking lot, and Izuku spots the Rescue Hero 13, standing outside and waving at them all. "Welcome," she calls as they exit the bus. "Come on inside, everyone." When they walk in, almost everyone's jaws drop. Izuku notices the ghosts and spirits that haunt the class coming back into view, Kirishima's dog running around and barking, and the others eyeing the place curiously. Oboro is grinning, taking in the view. 13 starts talking to them about the facility, but Izuku is distracted by a sensation he can't describe. It's an ominous, terrible feeling, like there's a wave about to crash over him, and he can't stop it. He turns to check in with Oboro, but Oboro is standing still, flickering in and out of vision like television with poor signal. Izuku is startled. In all the years he's been able to see Oboro, he's never been like this. Before he can ask the ghost what's wrong, a terrible cacophony of screams overtakes Izuku. "Run! Run! Get out of here! Oh God, they're just kids! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" Izuku's entire being fills with horror when he looks across the USJ and sees hundreds of ghosts. Some are rushing over, trying to warn his class to leave, while others are wailing and crying. To Izuku it's deafening, but he knows no one else can hear it. "Dad," Izuku chokes out, not realizing he's interrupted 13 and just revealed to the whole class that Aizawa's his father. "Dad, something's wrong." Aizawa's there in an instant, looking at his shaking son. "What is it? What are you seeing?" So many," Izuku chokes out, a hand over his mouth. "So many ghosts. They're screaming, saying we need to get out. Something's coming." "Sensei!" Iida cries, and Aizawa turns around. Izuku's eyes widen as dozens of villains begin pouring out of black and purple portals of swirling mist. Oboro is still flickering next to him, and Izuku thinks he might be ill. In the center of the USJ is a villain covered in several hands with an entire dead family behind him, all weeping. It's intense, and Izuku has no idea what to do. 13, protect the students, Aizawa calls. "These are real villains. Iida, listen. You need to run to UA and get help, now." Aizawa doesn't wait around to hear Iida's protest, taking off like a shot to begin fighting the villains in the center of the USJ. Iida turns and bursts out of the front doors of the USJ, presumably to get help, before the villains effectively block the exit. Oboro is on his knees next to Izuku now, his form blurry and shaky. Izuku can't explain it. It's nothing like he's ever seen. The villain with the warp quirk is next to the one with the severed hands, and Oboro is staring at them, his entire body glitching. Izuku reaches out for Oboro, but one of the portals swallows Izuku and his classmates up before he can. When he comes to, he's by himself in another part of the USJ. He's surrounded by dozens of crying ghosts, all of them in various states of distress. It's too much for him to take in, and he forces himself to ignore them. Oboro's not with him, so Izuku doesn't have the cloud quirk. He doesn't chance calling for Oboro, unable to tell in the massive swarm of ghosts if any villains are nearby, instead listening for the sounds of fighting, knowing that's where his dad is fighting the villains. He's not worried about his dad. He's excellent in a fight, and despite the frankly horrifying number of ghosts and spirits, he has a sense that most of these villains are low-level and probably not that dangerous. Not like the warp villain and the one covered in hands. Izuku makes his way back to the center of the USJ, shocked when he sees Oboro standing face-to-face with the warp villain. He's still flickering in and out of existence, and Izuku is even more shocked when Oboro touches the warp villain and vanishes. "Izuku," he hears Oboro say, turning to look but not seeing him. "Help me, please." "Where are you?" "I don't know. I just need... Help me, Izuku. It hurts." Oboro's voice fades out into static like a bad horror film, and Izuku's stomach drops. Something is terribly, horribly wrong. He rushes towards the warp villain, ignoring his dad cry his name in fear. The villain with the hands doesn't notice him, and Izuku touches the warp villain before he can spot him. He gasps when he touches the war villain, Obero's grinning face snapping into his mind. Izuku wills Obero to pull out into existence in front of him, his ghost shaking as if he's in pain, falling to his knees and glitching in front of Izuku. "What is this?" the war villain says in a deep voice. Izuku ignores him, just grabs onto Obero and forces him into his body. Izuku winces once Obero's possessing him, feeling the ghost's pain. Obero seems to be in no condition to drive Izuku's body, so instead, Izuku taps into Obero's quirk. He creates a massive amount of cloud cover, obscuring the villains completely before grabbing onto Aizawa, who was looking worse for wear. "Kid, what the hell are you doing?" Aizawa asks as they run. "You're going to get yourself killed." "He had Obero!" Izuku cries, his voice coming out in a mix between his and Obero's, undulating strangely. "And you were hurt. We had to save you." Aizawa's eyes widen as Obero steps out of Izuku's body, falling to his knees again, but no longer glitching. Izuku puts a hand on Obero's shoulder, seeing his dad staring at Obero's figure on the ground. I can see you," he gasps, locking eyes with Obero. "Holy shit." Obero reaches out a hand to Aizawa before he vanishes completely, simply and suddenly gone. Izuku has no explanation for what happened, but he eyes the clouds anxiously, relieved they're still there. "Izu, are you hurt?" Aizawa asks, and Izuku shakes his head. Aizawa nods, grabbing Izuku's arm and pulling him away from the center of the fight, both of them relieved when they see Ida at the entrance of the USJ with not only All Might, but the entirety of the UA staff. "It'll be all right now, kid," Aizawa says, smiling up at Hisashi, who is looking at them both with a panicked expression. "Come on, let's get you and your classmates to safety." Obero doesn't come back. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 8 of Spirit. Chapter 9 will be up next. I hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.